Hello and welcome to One India. Tonight on World News, alliances are cracking, red lines are being enforced, and the rule of global engagement are being quietly rewritten. From the Gulf, where a rare public rupture between Saudi Arabia and the UAE is reshaping the Yemen war, to Moscow, where claims of an attack on President Vladimir Putin's residence raises serious questions about timing and intent. This is World News. Let's begin. A dramatic escalation inside the Saudi-led coalition. The United Arab Emirates has announced the withdrawal of its forces from Yemen, and the trigger is an extraordinary ultimatum from Riyadh. This comes after a Saudi strike targeted a shipment allegedly linked to UAE-backed Yemeni separatists, followed by a blunt 24-hour deadline issued through Yemen's presidential council. Saudi Arabia is clearly asserting dominance, and Abu Dhabi is forced onto the defensive. This withdrawal weakens UAE-aligned separatist forces and sharply rebalances power on the Yemeni battlefield. More details in this report.
Two of the Middle East's closest allies, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, suddenly weren't acting like allies anymore. Because, out of nowhere, Saudi Arabia gives the UAE a 24-hour ultimatum: get your troops out of Yemen. And this wasn't just diplomatic language. This came right after Saudi fighter jets bombed the Yemeni port city of Mukalla. Riyadh says the strike targeted UAE-supplied weapons headed for the Southern Transitional Council, the STC, a powerful separatist movement in southern Yemen. The message was clear. Saudi Arabia was drawing a red line. And then, a few hours later, the UAE announces, we're withdrawing, voluntarily, as part of ending their counter-terrorism mission. But the timing? Right after the airstrike, right after the ultimatum, yeah, that didn't look like coincidence. A lot of analysts saw this as Saudi Arabia reestablishing control over the war next door. Let's rewind. Mukalla isn't just another city. It's a major oil export hub, a lifeline for southern Yemen's economy. And it's controlled by the STC, a separatist movement that wants to bring back an independent South Yemen, a country that actually used to exist until unification in 1990. Back in 2015, both Saudi Arabia and the UAE were fighting on the same side, backing the Yemeni government against the Iran-aligned Houthis. But over time, they started wanting different things. Saudi Arabia wants a unified Yemen, one state, one government. Because fragmentation, that creates instability right on the Saudi border. But the UAE? They've invested heavily in the STC, funding, training, weapons, because they want reliable partners controlling key ports and trade routes. Plus, they really don't like Islamist factions like Yemen's Islah Party, which they link to the Muslim Brotherhood. So while they were technically on the same team, they were playing different games. And then 2025 happens. The STC launches an operation with this very cinematic name, Operation Promising Future. And it works. They sweep across Hadramaut, Al-Mara, parts of Shabwa, capturing oil fields, ports, and export terminals. By early December, they controlled 6 southern governorates, and their leaders start saying, we're close to declaring independence. For Saudi Arabia, that was a nightmare scenario, because it doesn't just split Yemen, it fractures the entire coalition against the Houthis. So, when Saudi intelligence says those UAE-supplied weapons are fueling separatist expansion, Riyadh responds with jets over Mukalla. Infrastructure is damaged, civilians are evacuated, and then comes the ultimatum: 24 hours, leave Yemen. And the UAE steps back. So what we're watching here isn't just one airstrike, it's two regional powers diverging after nearly a decade of fighting this same war. Saudi Arabia is betting on unity under the Presidential Leadership Council. The UAE is betting on influence through local partners like the STC. And caught between them, millions of Yemenis living through one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. There's even this phrase floating around in political speeches: oil is betraying the Muslim Brotherhood. It sounds cryptic, but it basically means this: control over oil, power, and ideology are all colliding in southern Yemen. Right now, the UAE says it's out. Saudi Arabia has the upper hand. And the STC? Still powerful, still ambitious, still talking about independence. So the real question is, does this diffuse the conflict, or does it set the stage for the next chapter in a war that just refuses to end?
Now, from the Middle East to Eastern Europe, where Moscow is making an unusually public claim. Russia's defense ministry has given its first detailed account of what it says was a large-scale Ukrainian drone operation targeting President Vladimir Putin's Valdai residence. Officials claim more than half the drones were intercepted hundreds of kilometers away, raising immediate questions about both capability and intent. Here's the full story.
This is one of the most explosive claims of the entire war. Russia is now alleging that Ukraine didn't just attack military targets, but launched a direct drone strike aimed at Vladimir Putin himself. Senior Russian officials are issuing personal threats. Donald Trump says Putin called him directly, and Moscow is calling it a terrorist assassination attempt.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good. I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. It's no good. It's no good. Don't forget, you know, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, you know, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that. And can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
Here's how this story unfolded and why it matters. According to Russian officials, the incident occurred on the night of December 29. Russia claims that long-range aircraft-type drones were launched toward one of Putin's official state residences in the Novgorod region. The drones were allegedly flying at extremely low altitude, making them difficult to detect. Russian air defense units say the drones approached from multiple directions, crossing several regions, a move they describe as carefully planned and multi-layered.
Период с 28 по 29 декабря 2025 года киевский режим предпринял попытку террористической атаки с массированным применением беспилотных летательных аппаратов дальнего действия по резиденции президента Российской Федерации в Новгородской области. Около 19 часов 20 минут 28 декабря подразделением аэротехнических войск воздушно-космических сил был скрыт факт воздушной атаки с применением беспилотных летательных аппаратов самолетного типа.
Moscow claims the goal was clear: to strike at the heart of Russian leadership. Russia insists that all drones were intercepted, there were no casualties, and Putin's residence was not damaged. No independent evidence has been released to support these claims. On Monday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov escalated the situation by publicly accusing Ukraine of launching the attack. Lavrov claimed the target was Putin's state residence, calling the incident a terrorist assassination attempt. He did not provide evidence. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky quickly dismissed the accusation, calling it a Russian disinformation operation designed to manipulate public opinion and international talks. Then came one of the most alarming responses. Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president and now senior member of Russia's Security Council, posted a message online aimed directly at Zelensky. Medvedev accused him of trying to sabotage peace negotiations and wrote, "He wants war. Well, now at least he'll have to stay in hiding for the rest of his worthless life." It was not a policy statement. It was a personal threat, and it marked a sharp escalation in rhetoric from the Kremlin. Then the story took an unexpected turn. Donald Trump confirmed that Putin personally called him to discuss the alleged attack. Trump also referenced his decision not to provide Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good. I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. It's no good. It's no good. Don't forget, you know, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, you know, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
Those comments suggest the allegation is now influencing, or at least entering, the highest levels of global decision-making. From Moscow's perspective, the message is clear. They are framing this as not a battlefield incident, not a routine drone strike, but an attempted assassination. By doing so, Russia raises the political and psychological stakes, both domestically and internationally. Ukraine, meanwhile, denies everything and insists the story is part of an information campaign. So what's the truth? Right now, it's impossible to independently verify Russia's claims. But regardless of what actually happened, the impact is real. This isn't just about drones, it's about narratives, escalation, and how close this war is getting to the very top. Was this truly an attempted strike on Putin, or a calculated move in the information war to shift global opinion and negotiations?
And now to Latin America, where the United States may just have crossed a new threshold. President Donald Trump says a U.S. strike hit a Venezuelan dock area allegedly used for drug trafficking, describing a major explosion without offering the specifics. According to the reports by CNN and the New York Times, the strike was carried out using a drone operated by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. If confirmed, this would mark the first known direct U.S. operation inside Venezuela. The Maduro government has so far remained silent, but the implications are significant. Take a look.
For the first time ever, the U.S. has carried out a strike on land in Venezuela. And the target? A dock allegedly used to load boats with narcotics. Donald Trump shocked the world, revealing a major explosion at a Venezuelan facility. He refused to give details. CNN and the New York Times report that the CIA carried out the strike, marking the first known U.S. operation inside Venezuelan territory. According to Colombian President Gustavo Petro, the target was a cocaine factory in Maracaibo, allegedly controlled by the ELN guerrilla group. Trump himself refused to confirm whether the CIA was involved, saying, "I know exactly who it was, but I don't want to say who it was." No images or footage of the strike have been released, unlike previous U.S. strikes on drug smuggling boats, which were publicly documented. Since September, the U.S. has launched 30 strikes against alleged drug smuggling vessels, mostly in the Pacific and Caribbean, killing over 100 people. Trump has threatened land strikes in Venezuela before, but this dock strike could mark a dramatic escalation in the pressure campaign against Nicolás Maduro. So far, the Venezuelan government has stayed silent. State media has not reported the incident, and Maduro has accused the U.S. of using a war on drugs as a cover to target his government. Recent U.S. actions also include a naval blockade of sanctioned oil tankers, seizure of 2 oil tankers, and pursuit of a third. deployment of a large military force to the Caribbean. Maduro calls it piracy, while Trump hints that the ultimate goal could be to weaken or remove him from power. The U.S. claims the strike was part of an anti-drug campaign, but experts say Venezuela is mainly a transit country, not a major drug producer. Most narcotics entering the U.S. come via Mexico, not Venezuelan ports. Still, a land strike marks a dangerous turning point. This is not just about drugs, it's about geopolitics, power, and escalating tension in the Americas. For the first time, the U.S. has struck Venezuelan soil. Is this a warning, a pressure tactic, or the start of something far bigger?
Last but not the least, to Iran now, where economic distress is once again fueling public anger. Protests triggered by inflation and the collapse of the Iranian rial has spread well beyond Tehran, entering a third day across multiple cities. The unrest began in the capital's Grand Bazaar, a symbolic economic nerve center, after the currency hit a record low against the dollar. More in this report.
Iran's streets are once again gripped by unrest as security forces fire tear gas to disperse protests erupting across multiple cities. Footage from Tehran, Kermanshah, and other urban centers shows riot police confronting crowds, making arrests, and struggling to contain growing anger. What began as an economic protest is rapidly evolving into one of the most serious challenges to the Islamic Republic in years. Dozens have been detained, including journalists covering the demonstrations. Among them, Mehdi Biouk, political editor of Iran's Itamad newspaper, was arrested while reporting from the streets. His wife said she had no contact with him for more than 24 hours before confirming his release Tuesday. Videos confirm at least 11 arrests on Sabunian Street in Tehran. In western Iran, the crackdown intensified. Video from Kermanshah shows tear gas launched into tightly packed crowds as demonstrators shouted "Shame, shame." In parts of Tehran, including Jamhuri Street, protesters briefly forced riot police to retreat, a rare moment of defiance caught on camera. The unrest was triggered by Iran's collapsing economy, but has grown into a broader political outcry. Chants condemning Tehran's foreign spending echoed through the streets, including slogans rejecting support for Gaza and Lebanon in favor of domestic needs. Dissident journalist Masih Alinejad says the protests reflect a deep legitimacy crisis for the Islamic Republic. Iran's economic picture is grim. The rial plunged to a record $1.4 million per US dollar Tuesday, after starting the year at just over 717,000. Official figures show inflation has not dropped below 36% since March, placing basic goods beyond the reach of many families. Economic inequality, corruption, and mismanagement, even acknowledged by state media, have fueled public fury. Under pressure, the government is signaling a softer tone. President Masoud Pezeshkian said he instructed the Interior Minister to listen to protesters' legitimate demands. Government spokeswoman Fatima Mohajirani announced a dialogue mechanism would be created, including talks with protest leaders. Iran's crisis has been years in the making. U.S. sanctions were reimposed in 2018 after Donald Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal, and United Nations sanctions returned in September. Reuters reports Iranian officials held emergency meetings to prevent economic collapse and manage public anger, even as protests echo those seen in 2022 over bread prices. Iran remains under intense international pressure. Trump has warned of backing further Israeli strikes if Tehran resumes work on ballistic missiles or nuclear weapons. The U.S. and Israel carried out nearly 2 weeks of airstrikes in June, targeting Iran's military and nuclear sites, claims Tehran denies, insisting its nuclear program is peaceful. As unrest grows at home and pressure mounts abroad, Iran's leadership faces a volatile and uncertain path ahead.
So, from fractured alliances and contested narratives to covert strikes and popular unrest, tonight's stories share a common thread. That's world news for tonight. One India wishes all its viewers a very happy and prosperous new year. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.